You're listening to another episode of Building Your Future. This is a Kerry ETB podcast. I'm Joe McGill. Today we're going to be focusing on community national schools, of which there are 3 in this county. We have Scoil and Ghleanna in the Glen. We also have Taithilla, that's outside Sneem, near between Sneem and Kinmare. And we also have 2 Mile National School, 2 Mile Community National School, that's just outside Killarney. And to talk about this, I'm delighted to say, in studio, we have Sorcha Ní Chatháin, Principal Scoil and Ghleanna, and we also have Ruby Cooper, teacher at 2 Mile Community National School, and we have Julianne McGillicuddy, who is a parent of 2 children at Scoil and Ghleanna. You're all very welcome. How are you today?
Very good, Joe. Thank you.
Brilliant. Sorcha, if we can start with yourself, I suppose, tell us about your school.
So we are Scoil Ní Chatháin. We are situated in the Glen in Ballinskelligs, looking out on Skellig Rock, and we have our beautiful St. Finian's Bay down beside us as well. So we have 24 pupils in our school currently. We are a 2-teacher primary school. I'm in the junior half of the school, and then we have Ghleanna in the senior half.
Yeah, it's one of the most spectacular locations, I'd say, to go to work in the world, I'd imagine. And even to learn in, I'd say it's pretty inspirational.
It is, and we try to use the community as much as we possibly can as well. There's a lot of outdoor learning involved as well, and it's great to be out in the community with the children too. But yeah, it's quite difficult to come in after lunchtime.
Tell us about the experience of being principal at the school when you changed over to a Kerry ETB school.
Yeah, so it was probably about a year-long process as such in the conversation that started initially, and a lot of connect then, of course, with Kerry ETB and the supports that we got from them in transferring patronage to the Kerry ETB as well. We then got word, I think it was the last week in August, that just the week that we were due to be opening up again for the following school year. So 2019, we officially transferred patronage over, yeah.
The community have really welcomed this change as well, haven't they?
They have. I suppose, like, the biggest part of it was that we're now offering something different, that there was choice now available for parents. I myself started as a parent as such in Dublin, so I researched schools. I went to schools and visited them and wanted to see what was important for myself and my family, and so it was important for us to be able to offer something different as well for families when they were looking at schools for their children.
And how is it different?
Well, because we're now a community national school, the ethos actually sits very well with the way that I teach, and it really spoke to me in the method that I would have kind of used anyway within my classroom, very much equality based and child based and holistic, and focusing on a lot of the artsy sides of things, and music would have been a huge passion of mine. We're a Gaeltacht school as well, which was really big for me. So was raised with Gaeilge and always had Gael Scoilíoch growing up as well. So that was really big for me as well. But it was to offer a multi-denominational setting with the Gaeltacht schooling. So we're the only Gaeltacht community national school in Ireland as well. So we're really trying to kind of branch out and be a bit innovative in what we're doing as well.
You mentioned it's a 2-teacher school, so it's a small enough school in relative terms. But I'd imagine as a child then you're getting probably a lot more focus.
There's a lot of focus, yeah. We started off with 12 pupils initially when we were transferring patronage, and we've doubled now to 24, and we've 4 little newbies coming in now in September as well, which is fantastic. So we're growing at a nice pace. It hasn't gone too quickly, but it's going nicely, that we're confident in the future of the school as well, which is brilliant for us. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge to kind of look at something new, because you're wondering, is this going to work? Is this going to be welcome in the community? And thankfully it has been, and people have been really interested, I think, in finding out what we're about, and the Kerry ETB aspect of it as well, like what makes us different now as a community national school. And I can speak from my own side of it as a principal. There are a lot more supports available now to me, and you have your HR department. So like if you're advertising a job, for example, do you know that there's that support that's there available to you. Buildings, our yard was completely done up by the building section inside in Kerry ETB as well. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of taken off your desk, and that there's a section available for you to support you in that, help with finance, things like that. They might not necessarily be the things that are visible on the ground to parents coming into the school, but I suppose it frees up my time then to be more available then for my children and for the staff in the school. But like, definitely with 24 pupils, you know every one of them. And you know them inside out. You know what they like, what they don't like. You can tailor things towards them. If they're a not particularly sporty cohort, if they're more musically inclined, you know, you can kind of focus more on that. And they kind of tend to come in waves. At the moment, we have a bit of a mix. Like, some are sporty, some are musical. It's very much gymnastics going on actually at the minute as well. So we got some gymnastics equipment, you know. So it was just to be able to...
But you can react to that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. And you have the option to do that, and you're actually able to make it feasible and to make that work for them. But like, from the schooling side of it as well, it's not all just fun and games, obviously, all the time. So you're really trying to focus on getting these children a good education. So the set teachers that we have, our special education teachers, you can really focus in on these children, and we've so much time available for them then. So you're not only talking about the child who is really needing support, you're talking about that child that's somewhere maybe in the middle. Let's try to get them to the higher level then, you know, so you can really see where the challenges are, and you can actually focus down on them. So we've great support. We've our set teachers, we've our Cúntartanga, we had EAL hours this year as well. We've some extra Gaeltacht hours. So like, there's definitely a lot of support available for us.
You mentioned the increase in numbers. Do you think that's down, or in part down, to the changeover, or that I imagine it has helped?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I think it gave us focus. There was focus now on our school. It was like, oh, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? What makes that different? Or like, why are they choosing that? So yeah, definitely it made people kind of, I suppose, talk about us, and that's
interesting.
Julianne.
From like, because we don't live in the Glen, we live in Kerry ETB, so my kids have quite a distance to travel to school in the morning, and it was not controversial, but I suppose people queried our decision. Why didn't you go with the local school? And I'll be perfectly honest, we didn't choose it as a community national school. We chose it, or I chose it, as a Gaeltacht school because I speak Irish to my kids. But there's an awful lot of talk in Kerry ETB, which isn't the Glen, about Scoil and Ghleanna. And I suppose you've been very strong on social media, and you see all the different activities the kids do. And I suppose with the link to the ETB, it is probably a bit more visible on social media in that way. And you see all the extras. And like, my kids come home from school, they absolutely adore it. And I'd often say to them, you know, Ainge Gael on Scoil, Catherine for Scoil. And I usually get Vimer Spree. They don't see, and they, you know, they talk to their other friends who go to different schools. What were you doing at school? And they were like, oh, we were doing maths, we were doing Irish, we were doing, and my kids go, we were playing. We had a great day. And I know they weren't playing all day. They were, but they were learning, and they come home with, you know, the most amazing projects and the most amazing experiences. And, you know, they were down to the beach, they were doing beach cleanups. They've been doing a thing with the, I'll get this wrong, the Green Glen group.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Recently, where they built an insect hotel. Yes. And they constructed it, and they brought in materials from home, and they see that as playing.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing education.
Yeah, it's an amazing learning experience. It's tactile.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And learning by doing.
They just see it as fun with their friends. But then they come home and they have great insight into things that I don't expect them to have. So they're getting this amazing education, but they're getting it in such a child-centred way that they don't think they're studying.
And how did you come to that decision? Did you go away and research community schools, or how did you make the initial decision?
My decision was based an awful lot on the Gaeilge. I wanted my kids to have Scoil Gaeilge. I didn't have that as a kid, but I have a great grá for Gaeilge, and I speak Irish at home to my kids. And it's not that there's anything wrong with our local school. It's a fabulous school. But there's a lovely spin-off for us in the move to a community national school. And I can see why people choose community national schools for that reason. For us, it was just a happy coincidence that we got a beautiful school that was Scoil Gaeilge. My kids now have amazing Irish. But they're also getting a lovely, inclusive, diverse education. And we are a Catholic family. My kids, and my older child, Aideen, has just finishing second class. She made her first Holy Communion last year. And there were 5 of them that did it, and it was such a gorgeous day. But it was done in a way that didn't exclude anyone else. So they do their sacramental preparation classes outside of school hours. And it's, you know, it's very much supported by the ETB. It's very much supported by the school, but it's done in the parish. And because of COVID, it's ended up happening online, and it's continued. They do an hour on Zoom every Monday. And it's lovely that the other kids in the school actually called down the day of the communion. They were very much aware that it was happening, but it didn't exclude them in any way, shape or form. They weren't, you know, do your art down there in the back of the room while we prepare for communion. So it's facilitated and included in a way that the students know about it, and they know that it's different, but they don't feel left out. And I think that's really important. Like, we're a much more diverse society than we used to be. And I can remember being at school, there might have been one or two in my own primary school in Galway that didn't do communion. They were very much on the edge of all of that. And it was horrible for those kids to feel that there was something big happening that was such a big deal for everyone else that they weren't a part of.
They feel different.
They do.
Yeah.
Whereas my kids still had their big day and their big celebration, but it wasn't at the expense of any other kid's experience. And I think that's so important for them to learn, that there is differences and you respect them and you include everyone in it, and it's just a really positive learning curve for them going forward as adults.
Yeah, very good. Ruby, you're a teacher at 2 Mile Community School. I might get you to move in a bit closer to the mic and tell us about that school. It's just outside Killarney.
Yeah, so it's just outside Killarney. It's a 3-class teacher school, and it's grown a lot recently.
Yeah. We were talking about the child-centred approach, and that's very much the focus there at 2 Mile as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about
definitely child-centred. Like, if children have ideas about projects and things like that, we can move in that direction. I think that's the small learning, the small class sizes, but also, yeah, the children just seem to be very creative and have a lot of ideas. And it's lovely as a teacher to be able to take their ideas on board. And instead of trying to motivate them about something, they're already motivated, and you're learning so much in the process too. And I teach 3rd to 6th class, so they just take off with their projects and their ideas, and different children are going in completely different directions, and it's lovely to see that as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, you know, sometimes you get these school projects that come into a national school and they can take fire, and the person maybe, or the student that was quiet in the class comes alive because it appeals to maybe the creative side of someone, and oftentimes we don't get that opportunity to explore a creative side till later, maybe in secondary school or whatever. But this is very much the approach in your school.
I think every child is creative. Every person is very creative. We're creative beings. But certain environments can really harness that and encourage that, whereas other environments can kind of dampen it a bit. And I think it is probably the fact that children are comfortable with being different and being unique in a kind of an environment that has people from lots of different backgrounds. And I think to explore anything creatively, we need to be comfortable to take that first step on how I'm going to approach it is different to the person beside me. And that's not wrong, but I can have the confidence to take the second step and to see where it goes in that kind of creative journey. And I think it definitely is impacted by the fact that children are comfortable with themselves and their own families and their own stories. And like we were saying about, some people make their communion, some people don't. We're all coming from different backgrounds, and that's a lovely thing.
And that's important later life as well, to be educated early, that we are in a diverse society now, so that the world is diverse, and maybe our schools should be reflecting that diversity. And
a part of the Goodness Me, Goodness You curriculum is thinking time, and we're kind of learning how to converse and listen to other people. And I think I remember learning how to debate. You know, it's very much like, I have my opinion and I will forge on with it, you know. And it's kind of listening just to get an opportunity to speak.
Yes.
You know, you're kind of listening-ish just so you can tie your point in.
Yeah.
But this is listening to understand and learning how to listen to somebody and to see things from their perspective, with the goal that you might change your mind. You know, we're malleable, we can change all the time, and it's our interactions with other people that can influence us. And if we weren't, it would be a very sad journey through life, that we are fully as we are and we will never change or never kind of evolve or move in a different direction. So I think the children are learning. It seems like such a big thing, but it happens with very small, everyday kind of topics, that they're learning that you can discuss something, we have different opinions, you can, listen and maybe change direction a little bit, as opposed to debating something from, you know, black and white, the 2 points.
Yeah, because that traditional approach to debating is like there's a winner and there's a loser.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you're not going to want to change your opinion because you want to have your side
to
winning.
win.
Yeah.
It's almost like a law, you know, like you need to kind of, prove your point and win the thing. When there's no, like you see it in our world, there's no winners if we can't understand where each other is coming from and the diverse kind of country we're in, to see that there are many different ways to go about things and none are necessarily right or wrong.
Yeah, and Julianne, as a parent, do you notice that in your kids when they come home, in the line of, I suppose, their opinions on life and talking about things?
Yeah, my kids certainly have opinions, Joe. I'm sure Sarah would agree. But they have much broader understanding of, we say even things as simple as, gender stereotypes. Whereas, and I'd see, the older generation of my family, and totally unintentionally would buy boy toys for my boy and girl toys for my girl. And my kids don't see it like that, because they don't get that stereotyping, and they I suppose they're a bit more critical as thinkers than we might have been as kids. We were very much, pigeonholed is a bit strong, but that was kind of how our generation were brought up. Girls played with Barbies and boys played with trucks, and my kids aren't like that, and they just see the broader perspective of things. And when I say like they think critically, I mean like they're 5 and 8, so that's probably a bit strong, but they're very well able to question things. There's no reticence. They're not afraid to question things, even with adults, and they're very comfortable with their teachers. And I think that comes from they lead the learning in the classroom, and they'd come home and they'd say to me, "Oh, I told Moonshaw Sorcha about, and now we're going to do a project." Or, in the senior room with Killian, they've been learning about different countries and different cultures, and their homework would be to research it. And he doesn't tell them what to research. It's go home and find out about, they did something on the pyramids recently. Yeah. And it wasn't, look at this website, which would kind of have been the kind of homework we got. Look at this website and come back with 5 facts. And it was just go and discover. And it was whatever way you wanted, whatever website you wanted, on whatever device you wanted, with whatever assistance you wanted, and come back with information. And then they were going in and like teaching the other kids in the class. And I actually teach second level, and these are the skills we want our young people to have. And they weren't skills that we necessarily got at school. And then you get to college and you struggle because you're expected to be this independent learner. Yeah. And my kids are getting that at age 5. And
it's a very holistic approach, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Very much so.
Yeah, Sorcha.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. Just picking up on what Ruby was saying there about the patrons programme, Goodness Me, Goodness You, it allows them to learn about each other's families. And we had this conversation in the car on the way up, Julianne, about the value that there is in learning from somebody else's experiences, as opposed to saying, this is how it is. So the Patrons programme then opens it up to them. There's a lovely part of it called the Family Project. And you send home a very kind of broad questioned piece of paper with them, and that they have to kind of fill it in from home. But you're not telling them what to fill it in with. So it's like, what things do you celebrate at home, whether they're speaking about a religious event or a celebration that they have. I would have been raised quite differently to some of my friends growing up, because my mum came from Sweden, so we had different ways of doing things. Do you know? So it's so interesting when they do come in with these family projects, and that they stand up and they present to the class, and like the confidence that they have to actually even do that. Like I have 4, 5 and 6 year olds in my classroom, and that they're able to stand up, and it could be picture based. There might be no writing on it whatsoever, but that they have a picture of a birthday cake. I'm just thinking of my own examples from home. We celebrated birthdays very differently at home, but like that they'd have a picture of their birthday cake, and they would have had that conversation at home, and you then have that connect with the parents as well. Like, because you're community based, it's not just the community that you're coming from, but it's the families that are choosing your school. It's those parents. And that I feel, and I hope that I'm correct in saying, that we have a very strong connect with our families. And I think all 3 community national schools have that as well, in that we're open to conversation, very open to conversation with our parents and wanting that involvement. Do you know, it's very much kind of almost group work, and that we want the best for these children, and how best to have that is with the support of your families.
And it's lovely that when you look at the cohort in Scoil and Ghleanna at the moment, it's very diverse. I mean, there's a family who came from Germany, and there's a family who came from England. There's actually not that many families with Gaeilge at home. And they all come in with slightly different traditions and slightly different opinions. And they come home and they tell me things. Oh, wait, I'll tell you what, you know, Emma told me today, and Emma's originally from Germany, and they'd have a totally different take on things. And then because they're not, you know, a denominational school, then there's a celebration of loads of different things. So like, because our kids were doing communion and confirmation outside of school, they would have been filling people in at school about that. And then through other things you'd study, like my kids were coming home and teaching me about Hanukkah. I had never learned about it because we were a Catholic school growing up, and they're learning things that I can't teach them and that they won't learn in other settings. And it's just really valuable for them going forward that they know that there's more than one way of doing things. And just because it's different, it doesn't mean it's wrong, that everyone has their own method of doing things, everyone has their own celebrations, their own take on things. And while they might question it, they're not questioning it thinking it's wrong. They just want to know more about it.
Yeah, they're
so
inquisitive.
It's feeding an inquisitiveness that we want them to have. They're curious about different things, but they're accepting of it.
And I imagine as well, Sorcha, when you're in that environment, then you don't see differences anymore.
Not
you know what
at
I mean?
all. No.
So that's the beauty of it as well.
Yeah, not at all. Like, we're all different. I'm different to them. Every one of them are different. My children are different to other children. But that's the beauty of it. And to get what Julianne is saying there, like, to get that into your starting junior infant day one. This is what we do. Do you know? And they don't see that then as being different, because that's just what they're used to. So you're looking then at children who are then going into secondary level, who have that mindset because they've had 8 years of respecting each other's values and feeling that equality and that inclusivity that they had for 8 years. You've inbuilt that in them at a young age, and that's when they'll carry it through, and that's where you're going to see these adults who are more accepting of differences, and that they see value in learning from differences as well. Like, I wouldn't have seen that until I went to college.
And maybe travelling as well.
Yes.
I think when you go travelling and you see the different things people do in different countries and the different celebrations, and you see that kind of shared humanity.
And it's exciting.
Yeah. And then to have that at
exciting,
school is such a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like, we were learning about Holy, and we had our own kind of little celebration within the classroom, and we did some artwork based on it. We hung it up on the wall. They were so proud of it. Do you know, and it was, I'm learning at the same time as well, and it's brilliant. Like, the Patrons programme is absolutely fantastic, and it's not solely religion based either. It's the philosophy of a child, and allowing them to express themselves, giving them an opinion, and allowing them to have value in what they believe, and sharing that with other children so that they then can have the respect for that child for having that opinion as well.
And it's funny, like, even just listening to you there, and I wouldn't have thought this until right now. We didn't get that at school.
No.
We were, like, told how to think sounds a little bit harsh, but we were taught about things. We weren't taught to question them. We weren't given the space to have an opinion. It was very much a traditional chalk and talk kind of a classroom setting. And look, that was in the late 80s, early 90s, and we've come a long way since then. But it's lovely to have kids who form opinions, who think in that manner, who are open to question, who are, you know, confident in their right to have an opinion and to question things. And we didn't have that as kids. And it's going to give us a generation of adults that are way more accepting. And you're right, we have to get the smallies. Like, we as adults, we're very set in our ways, and it's very hard to affect that kind of change in society. And you just feel, you know, the future's really bright when we get them at that age, and we get that critical thinking and open-mindedness.
Yeah, Ruby, just tell us, I suppose, a few of the projects you've been involved in the school, you know, that have fostered creativity or that you've enjoyed yourself.
We did projects about different religions. We did projects about different countries. We have a lot of children from many different backgrounds and many different countries in the classroom, and a lot of children have come from Ukraine as well recently, and we were, you know, learning about the different traditions in different places, and even within the children from Ukraine, how they do certain thing in this part of the country but not there. And the parents were involved. Even at the Christmas play, we had parents coming in singing songs from different countries and things like that.
You've beautiful displays in your school as well. I always comment when I go into Ruby's school, like in the hall, there, like there's an array of displays, and how you can see the pride in the children, you know, that they can show this off as well.
And what are those displays? What are they of?
Yeah, we have lots of art kind of things and projects. We made jewellery recently as well. Even for the graduation, the children kind of created these boards, one dedicated to each of the 6th class who was leaving, and they had, you know, a portrait of them done and like fun facts about them and an area for the other children to sign and things like that. And, you know, we love art in my class, especially the children. That group of children happen to be very artistic, and yeah, like creating 3D kind of origami decorations and hanging it around the school and things like that. There's loads that goes on. We do a lot for the green schools, and the children are always measuring the water and, you know, improving how we do things, or photocopying, stuff like that. They have great ideas on how we can be more green, and I suppose whatever they're interested in, we kind of...
Yeah, that's vital, isn't it? You know, when we talk about the environment and we see all the recent weather events and things that are taking place, it's so important. Yeah.
I just thought of this fashion project they did, so I thought it would be cool for us to learn a bit about fashion. We've some very, very cool girls who are very fashionable, and we chose the children split up into different groups, and they each took a different decade from kind of the Victorian era, and then there was up as far as the 90s, and the children like just approached it in whatever way they wanted, but at the end we were able to present to the whole school and kind of go through the decades, and the children would share kind of how the fashion changed. And also, you know, those paper doll things that I remember them when I was young, and you kind of have the tabs on them. Yeah. They each made a kind of a capsule wardrobe on the different decade of, and it was so much fun. It was great. Yeah, we're very fashionable.
Sorcha's taking notes there.
I'll scribble that down for a second.
But just on that, you know, you mentioned you were into the schools, so there's a bit of collaboration as well. I'd imagine there's a bit of a shared
huge collaboration. There's not a bit about it. It's massive. Myself and Catherine and Maura, so the 3 principals, and all the teachers, we would come together. Myself, Catherine, Maura, probably more so, I suppose, than that. We'd be kind of discussing kind of more formal things, but we have a friendship. Yeah. Do you know, like, we're really good and close, and we bounce ideas off each other. During COVID, we had, if you remember, Julianne,
the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, we did a school tour to the Taj Mahal. It was absolutely amazing. So
I went on that school tour to the Taj Mahal from my kitchen.
We all went to the Taj Mahal. And, do you know, it was like that bouncing of ideas, do you know, and just that you can share things that you've done, or we've come together as well to do these social media posts, in that we might choose a theme, and our lovely Lisa O'Flanagan up in the Kerry ETB came to us with this, and that we were to choose a theme. So we used music one week, and so we're all quite musical anyway, and so it was an easy theme for us to take, do you know. So myself and the Poshty down below, do you know, we did our own little hour on, and what were we doing that week? I can't even think now.
I don't know, Tiernan was playing
Roma Wading, that was it. Do you know, and so we got to record them. It was beautiful. Do you know, so it was great. A great opportunity to be able to collaborate with the other 2 schools, not just to bounce ideas and kind of go, oh yeah, I must do that, but to actually come together. And so we did nature another day, do you know, and you're always trying to tie the curriculum into everything as well. Do you know, it's not just that we're going in there to play. We are tying the curriculum in. When we're doing our projects down with the Green Glen group, you're talking about your geography, you're talking about the history of the community and the area that you live in as well. Ghleanna is big into history and geography too, so you're really pulling on the strengths of the teachers, and in that kind of instance, because that's his strength, we're all learning from Ghleanna. Do you know, so it's like you're really taking on what people already have a knowledge of as well, and trying to share that with the children.
But I'd imagine as well, you mentioned Cillian, a
Yeah.
teacher, like it attracts a particular kind of teacher, I'd say, as well, you know, someone that
Yeah.
is into this wonderful approach as
Yeah.
well. And what screams here during this podcast is the passion of all of you, the parents, the teachers, the principal. It's really coming across here. So I'd imagine, you know, you're attracting that kind of a teacher as well that's passionate.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you definitely want somebody who's passionate and who believes in what you're trying to do here and the whole ethos of it. And from the minute you walk in the door, that is the ethos of the school. Any communications, you know, with outside, whether it's with the ETB or with parents or the community, that's what you're trying to get across as well. So it's vital that you do have staff and teachers inside in the school that fully believe in what you're doing as well. And he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah. Do you have, you know, prospective parents calling you up? Is that how they inquire about it? You know,
Yeah,
I know
we
there's the
have.
formal process of going to Kerry ETB, but
Yeah, of
do
course,
you have
yeah.
people
Yeah,
inquiring?
we have
just
our
to-
open days. I
Yeah.
think all three community national schools, we have our open days. But yeah, you'd always get phone calls, or you might bump into somebody on the beach and through conversation they'd be like, oh yeah, we're looking for a school, and I'm like, oh, hang on till I tell you about mine there 1 second if you have a moment to listen to me. But like, word of mouth is so important as well, and like, we are very au fait with social media, and that was a big kind of campaign for us initially at the start, you know, when we were transferring over patronage, and then having the official opening as well. And we had Norma Foley who came down, and we had this huge event, and we had a marquee, and everyone was invited. It was absolutely amazing. It was brilliant, and the start and the end had to be about the kids, and it was, and that was so important, you know, that they finished it off, they closed it, and
They loved it.
They loved it. They were amazing. But like, definitely word of mouth spreads so quickly. So the positive word of mouth is what seems to be going around, and I'm hoping that is the word of mouth that is going around. You'll always get people that question things. It's not going to be for everyone. That's okay. It's just that
I
you're
think
trying
that's
to
the
offer
point,
it.
though.
Yeah.
That in the past, all schools were very similar, and now, considering we live in a relatively remote area, there's now a different option.
There's choice.
And there's choice, and it's fabulous. And choice reflects that we don't all fit into the same category, and every parent won't pick the same thing for their kids. And it's lovely now to be able to pick something a little bit different. And just to pick up on what you were saying there about the connect with the community, and particularly the connect with the parents, because I'm the current chairperson of Cushta Ní Chatháin in the school, and Sorcha and Cillian are fabulously supportive of having an active parents council in the school, and we have representation on the Kerry ETB Parents Forum. And 2 of our parents go to those meetings, and it's lovely to get feedback from other schools and what other parents councils do. But we've in the past had a community picnic where, and you know, I suppose in the back of our minds, we're promoting the school because we want our kids' school to grow and develop and to continue growing and developing. And we've had a community picnic down in the playground in the Glen, and it's open to anyone. It's not a Scoil and Ghleanna picnic. It's a community picnic hosted by the Parents' Council. And it is about getting word out there that this is a slightly different choice for parents. It's not just for the Glen. My kids get on the bus in Carsavine every morning, and they travel, I don't know, the bones of 30 kilometres from our house to the school. And they're delighted with that. And it was what made it possible for us to choose that school, was that it became an ETB school, and that we got a school bus, and it's made it possible for us further away from the Glen to have that same choice. But there's great support for the Parents' Council, and we had a really successful bingo night this year, and it kind of spreads the knowledge, I suppose, of the school to a slightly broader community.
Yeah, wonderful. Sorcha, you said we start and end with the kids, and that's what we're going to finish with the kids. It is all about them as well. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and like I said, the enthusiasm and the passion comes across so much from all 3 of you, Sorcha Ní Chatháin, Ruby Cooper and Julianne McGillicuddy. Thanks a million for talking to us.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
That's another episode of Building Your Future, and this is a Kerry ETB podcast. I've been Joe McGill, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care.